podcast for those who suffer, which is everyone.
It's a space where we can speak honestly about what it feels like to be in desolate places without losing hope.
Welcome to In the Thicket.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
We're so excited to have this little extra bonus time with you guys to share a little bit more deeply about the name of our podcast, In the Thicket.
Yeah.
So hello, Erin. Hello, Nicole.
Hi.
How are you guys doing?
I'm good.
Not too
except
bad.
so I have this space heater because my apartment is in a basement right now, and so the space heater obviously supplies for the basementing in the winter time.
Right.
But I was sitting here today and I was just sitting on the couch, and then I heard this thing and I was like, what is happening? And then I looked over and the space heater was like sparking and almost
Oh my gosh.
Oh dear.
fire.
What?
Like,
Oh dear.
like
Oh
I started
dear.
smelling like burning plastic, and but
Oh
it
my
has
gosh.
it automatically shut off because they all come with those, whatever, the
Safety
little
things.
safety things and
Right.
stuff, which is great. But then so I was like, okay, well, this is good. I'm glad that I don't
Yeah.
ever run it when I'm not here.
My
Gosh.
gosh. Yeah, that's really scary.
That's
So
scary.
are you
I'm
like
just happy to be alive. That's all. After this tragedy, I just am, really
Are you
thankful.
like without a space heater then right now? Is that the situation?
Well, so technically there's two of them because
Okay.
I'm very
Mm.
cold. So
Yeah, I was gonna say
yeah.
you're gonna freeze. That's
I know.
crazy.
Yeah, no, there's like a big heavy duty one that's meant to be on all the time and whatever. So that one is still fine. It's just the little one, probably because I've just been running it too hard, because like I'll put it on to
Mm.
warm my feet every time I'm sitting in the living room,
Right.
Hmm.
So I can do
Well,
it.
I think
I can offer
tomorrow's-
it up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Nicole, what's up with
Mhm.
you? How's the week?
Well, the week
going?
has been good. I discovered that there are other sicknesses besides COVID because I have a cold.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah,
actually went and I
crazy.
got a COVID test yesterday, and then it came back negative, which I got the results within like less than a day, which is great. But yeah, just a lot of time at home and just kind of doing work. So it's good. It's
Yeah. I can relate. Same deal. Like I think it was just like a head cold flu situation. So I got tested too. It was my first time getting tested, and I was like, oh, there's people who have to
Oh,
do
yeah.
it. I was thinking about like people in media and stuff or whatever who have to do it very regularly.
Like,
and I was
all
like,
the
that
time?
sucks. This
Mhm.
is not a fun test to be like getting regularly.
Yeah.
So everybody was
not
at
the most comfortable.
no, it's really, and the nurse I had
Mm.
was really nice. She was like, hey, listen, just be normal. Just be normal. I was trying to be really normal. Why this giant like Q-tip feels like it's in your brain. Like
That
it's
is exactly what people say. So
It
so
really
much
does.
so that the
Oh my
nurse who
gosh.
tested me before was like, listen, people think it's going into their brain, but that's
It's not.
impossible. So please just don't freak out. I'm like, it's fine. I understand the physiology. It's okay. Yeah.
It really does feel like
That's
that.
good. It
though.
does, yeah.
It's so funny. And yeah,
Yeah.
so I just like mad respect for all those people who have to take COVID tests regularly. God bless
Yeah.
you guys. Because
So
that's a
true.
suffering, honestly, in and of itself.
That's
But
Mhm.
hopefully everything's, no one test comes back with unwanted results. So we'll
Great.
just keep everybody taking COVID tests in our prayers regularly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on to the topic of the day, which is why are we called In the Thicket? Podcast about suffering. So I have the quote that inspired this name from St. John of the Cross, and Erin was the one who really, thought of this quote. I think I'm pretty sure, Erin, you kind of
Yeah.
had it in mind. So I'm just going to read it, and we're going to share a little bit about each of our sort of experience and encounter with God in what St. John of the Cross has to say. So here we go. So he says, would that men might come at last to see that it is quite impossible to reach the thicket of the riches and wisdom of God, except by first entering the thicket of much suffering, in such a way that the soul finds there its consolation and desire. The soul that longs for divine wisdom chooses first and in truth to enter the thicket of the cross. So yeah, it's part of a longer meditation by St. John of the Cross, which is really beautiful. So we encourage everyone to read it. But,
it is really beautiful. Like the first time that I read that quote was when I was in Ottawa discerning with some sisters, and one of the sisters had kind of written it out on a piece of paper for me, and it was so I don't know, it's like horrifying and alluring at the same time. You know, like that's kind of always how I feel when I read it. Like there's something that is like I long to be able to I don't know, if it's necessary to be able to suffer well in order to grow in my relationship with the Lord, or to have that closeness. Like I desire it, but at the same time I am totally repulsed by it, you know? So it's like fun. It's like beautiful to read somebody who's speaking about suffering as a place where we can find consolation and ultimately like the desire of our souls in that experience, you know? So, and then it's on his feast day, December 14th of each year. It's the second reading for the Office of Reading. So I get to read it then too.
Yeah. What about you, Nicole? What's your...
Yeah, I mean, I just thought, first of all, I think I like the word thicket. It's fun to say, thicket. I don't know. It's just like, okay. Anyways, because who says thicket anymore? And like, that's true. I never get to go in thickets. You know, I live in downtown Toronto. There's no thickets around. Okay, true. Great. I just wanted to say it a bunch of times. No, I think like, one of the things I thought was interesting about this quote is that there are two thickets that are talked about. One is the thicket of the riches and wisdom of God, and one is the thicket of the cross. And so there's this sense that there's these parallel things, and you can't get to the good one without going through the crappy one. You know, and so that's one of the things that I was kind of thinking about is, okay, there's these two thickets, and then that brings to mind as well, you know, we don't, like, suffering is not great. We don't suffer for the sake of suffering. Suffering is not good for in itself at all, obviously. But I think that's important too. You know, it's not. It's going towards something else, and it's going towards something, the riches and wisdom of God, something very wonderful. And I think elsewhere, and he talks about the treasures, like the heart of Christ is like this mine filled with many rooms and treasures, and it's infinite and everything. And so it's like, okay, this is where we're going, but we've got this journey, and the journey is going to take us through some thickets if we want to get to this amazing destination. But it's about that destination, so keeping that in mind. That's one of the things.
Yeah, I mean, so many things that both of you said really resonate with me. Like, I totally get the horror of the thicket of suffering kind of image, because I think I've shared this with you guys, or I've shared it with tons of people. So if you're listening to this and you're my friend, or you've heard me share this before, I'm so sorry. I say this all the time, but I remember when I was in fourth year university, I was reading Come Be My Light, the Mother Teresa book, with like a lot of her letters and personal stuff in it. And she talks about how much she suffered right through dryness for decades. And I remember that was the first time that I really understood that saints actually suffered, right? Like, I thought when you were holy, God gave you, in quotes, like the grace to suffer. And in my mind, that meant, well, then you just don't feel the suffering. Like, people look at you and they think you're suffering, but you're not, because of this grace that God gives you. And I remember reading her letter, her journal notes or whatever she was writing, and just feeling like the visceral, that kind of sense of what she was living. It was so painful. I had to stop halfway through the book because I was like, I can't do it anymore. It's too hard. And it scared the crap out of me, because I was like, well, this is not like anything else. I was like, I don't want to be holy. Like, this is awful.
Yeah, right.
You know? And it took me a really long time to process that and understand, like without suffering is real, and we feel it even like more sometimes the closer we get to God, but it's also not something he wills for us in and of itself, because it's not good in and of itself. So it's like this really confusing thing that I was working through. So yeah, but I think that other bit of the transformation of our suffering that really is possible when we draw near to Christ. And that's why it's like the thicket of suffering to me, and the thicket of the cross, like, to understand the thicket of suffering really is the thicket of the cross, because then I'm with Jesus. It's not just suffering without the Lord, like suffering with the Lord and suffering without the Lord are very different things.
Right.
Well, that's the thing. Like, that's the like, because Jesus entered into suffering, he has redeemed suffering, and brought meaning and like goodness into something that was totally, that is meaningless apart from the meaning that he gave to it. But I think, like, maybe I can just read, if it's okay, just the last line of the quote, because even that, like, the gate that gives entry into these riches of his wisdom is the cross, because it is a narrow gate. While many seek the joys that can be gained through it, it's given to few the desire to pass through it. So it's like, I think we all kind of have that, like, we have that built innate desire for happiness, for goodness, for truth, for beauty, for all of these good things. And so even in the sense of having, like, talking about two thickets, it's almost like there's only one thicket. It's just that the thicket itself transforms to be the place where we find consolation, where we find all of those things, because we're experiencing the redemption of Christ in it at the time. Like, even Mother Teresa, like, you're talking about her, and there's that quote from her, I've discovered the secret that if you love until it hurts, there can be no more hurt, only more love.
Oh, yeah. And I think that, like, it's so important. Like, our podcast and our goal is not to sort of morbidly glorify suffering. And we're not, and we're not wanting people to seek out, like, unnecessary suffering. And, like, that's not what we want to do. But it really is about, it's really about, like, facing the reality of suffering that we all go through, just because we live in this, on this side of heaven, in a sense, but that God is calling us to experience his kingdom still, even now, so that even the places of suffering in our lives are not untouched by God's love, and then kind of like what you said, Mother Teresa said, that if we allow love into those places, and it sounds really romantic and lovely when you sort of say it this way, but it's messy and it's hard.
It actually hurts.
And it actually hurts. But it's also actually beautiful somehow. And I feel like that's our hope,
because the Lord is there, because he's there,
exactly.
Totally.
I feel like, and I think that it's also like a thicket, and I think of all these brambly kind of prickly bushes, but there's a spatial element to it, in that, thickets aren't infinite. They don't last forever. Sorry, my nose is getting all sniffly here. 1 second. Okay. All right. And so it's when you're in that thicket, it can feel like, oh, I think I froze.
You're good.
Hi. My internet freeze. Okay. So yeah, when you're in that thicket, you can feel like, if you're in the woods or something, and you it's all you can see is thicket, then that can feel really frustrating, and you don't know what direction to go. But I think, the hope here too in this podcast is to talk to people who have been through their own thickets and have reached something thicket. And you might be in one thicket in one the thicket, and you're in the wisdom and the riches and the glory and the joy in another place, but being able to talk about that journey.
I just have to say, it was great. You froze at a couple points, but they were some super amazing shots of your face.
Oh no.
Your, like, eyes were just like open, like, and there's some great ones. So I highly recommend to go watch the YouTube video of this.
Screenshot.
That's great.
Oh no.
This is Nicole
Erin,
in the thicket.
Erin, I heard you have some good editing skills, so maybe you can
help with that.
That's great. I'm going to put it as your next post on Instagram, just to
great.
Fix it.
That's good.
I'll just save it for your birthday.
Oh, great. Thanks, Erin.
You're welcome. I love you.
Oh man. Yeah. So, I mean, you guys, that we just wanted to share kind of those few thoughts that we've had so far. And I feel like it's a growing understanding for us of what it means to be doing this podcast and what this quote means to us. I was even thinking when you were talking, Nicole, about, the logo and we have like little leaves sort of in there. So it's not all like dead branches, and we were thinking about that as like, there's life there. So you kind of experience both the suffering and the life sometimes at the same time. And there's not a real separation between the two, but sometimes, but yeah.
It's true. It's true.
What were you going to say, Nicole?
Oh, well, I okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we thought of the name for the podcast in the thicket, and then we found the quote. Is that true?
I can't remember. I feel like Aaron had them. Yeah. I don't remember what order.
I think I suggested it, and maybe
you did suggest it.
Totally transparent that, hey, this is from a quote. So like maybe it was in my mind, but I had not communicated that, and then it just sounded cool to you guys. You agreed to it, and then you found out that this came from a quote. You're like, "Wow, I guess we're stuck now."
That's perfect. That's how the holy. Oh, you.
So you just masterminded this whole thing.
Oh, Nicole, you're frozen again. We have got to take some screenshots, but it's like a perfect. It was like the best Zoom frozen image ever. There's got to be like a Zoom wall of fame somewhere with like the best frozen. You know what I mean? Like that, they've got to do that because
if not, it's gonna be a side project of In the Thicket.
Yeah, that's right.
Where we will both
oh my gosh,
these Zoom screenshots, and we will also post screenshots of the Zoom transcript of our conversations because those also get funny. Some pretty great.
And
things.
honestly, if other people are doing Zoom calls where they get really good Zoom freeze shots, then they should send them in to us because that's just comedy. It's awesome.
That's true. I mean, get permission from the person who you've taken an ugly shot of that you can post it because we have millions of followers. So
they could be Insta famous.
That's true.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think so. Yeah.
On that note, thank you everybody for listening to this sort of bonus episode of our podcast. Just some insight into the name and our process and what God's been doing in our hearts. God bless you guys, and we'll see you in the next episode.
God bless you. Bye.
Bye.
That was so great. You totally got frozen. You're totally frozen now.